Good evening and welcome to episode 270 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zydah. It's a special edition of the Private Property Podcast this evening as we come to you live from Black Brick in Sandton. I did say last week that we've got something very special coming to you on your screens this evening. As you can see, we love innovating, we love trying out new things, and this evening we've got an audience with us watching right here with us as you are watching us at home. And it is of course the first of many installments of such a broadcast. And what we will be doing, we're having a special panel discussion as we're going to be looking at buying your first home, some of the things that you should be looking out for, some of the mistakes that you definitely do not want to make, and of course some tips that we'll be getting from Absa Home Loans. What I want to find out from you at home before we get started with our broadcast this evening, we're slowly nearing episode 300 of the Private Property Podcast. And I think one of the great things about approaching 300 episodes is that there's so much content that you can of course look back on at home. And talking about that great content, if you're watching us for the first time, well, you chose a great time to start off the show with us. So do make sure that you subscribe across our social media platforms, and also of course go back to some of the episodes that you have missed out on so that you can get a glimpse on the only daily property talk show in South Africa that helps you on your home buying and certainly home selling and home living journey. And to all our regular viewers at home, welcome to it. You know how we do every single weekday at 7 p.m. You and I always have an appointment. We are always in conversation with an expert who helps us on our property journey. And talking about helping us on our property journey, that's exactly what we're going to be doing this evening. So as usual, mark the register down here below. I want to see who is live and watching us. Of course, do share the live with your friends and family as we make the property circle bigger. And talking about making that property circle bigger, you know that this isn't the only show that you can watch across the Private Property social media pages. You can of course catch the First Time Home Buyers show that comes to your screens every single Wednesday. And Esther Class was always in conversation with guests who not only walked that journey but have gone on to grow their property portfolio from strength to strength. We actually have a few people who she has interviewed on that show right here this evening with us as we are coming to you from Black Brick. And of course every Monday and Friday, Chad brings you the Home Shoppers Show. So for all of you at home who want to get a great glimpse of some of the great properties that we've got on www.privateproperty.co.za, then do make sure that you stay tuned for later on this evening as Chad brings you that show. And every Tuesdays and Thursdays, award-winning farmer Manuel brings you the Farming Podcast. So for all of you at home who've got green fingers, who want to explore all things agriculture, that is a show you want to make sure you are always tuned into. Well, we certainly love walking the home journey, home buying, home selling, home building journey with you across our Private Property social media pages. So do make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you follow us, whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, and we're now also available on TikTok. You can follow myself at @zamantungwa_K on Twitter as well as on Instagram. Now, before we get started with our conversation this evening with our great panel, I'm sure you've been seeing across our social media platforms. I did say that we're coming to you live from Black Brick, and of course, if you've watched and been following our show and the other shows, this wouldn't be the first time that you're hearing of Black Brick. Esther Clarkson has certainly done a feature on the the development, as well as Chad, where he's taken us through some of their offering. But for those of you at home who are still not familiar about what Black Brick is, perhaps you still want to get a sense of what their offering is and what you can expect if you were interested in buying there. We've got the man behind Black Brick. I was in conversation shortly with Moritz Velensik, who is the founder of Black Brick. Good evening so much, and thank you so much for joining us, Moritz, this evening. Firstly, this venue is amazing. I mean, we're literally on the rooftop. Sandton is around us. And I think for me, the big thing, and we're seeing this off air when you and I were speaking, is we're seeing a rise of properties that have a holistic offering for people who want to buy into them. So there's this idea of live, play, work within a particular property. Perhaps tell us how it came about that you even came up with the idea of Black Brick. And I mean, later on we'll probably get a sense of what viewers at home can expect going forward.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for coming and shooting live here at Black Brick, and thank you for inviting me on the show. We call it "Stay, Work, Become." That's our slogan. So our big mission is to create an environment for young professionals to become more. So we located here in Sandton, about 400 Sandton City, and so the location is walkable across the Sandton CBD, and you have all your amenities you need in the area. But beyond location, what we try to do in the building is create an environment where people can get everything that they need to get done in one place, and we're very focused on work and acceleration. So young professionals come to live here, come to stay here, because we have both a short and a long stay offering, to be in a place where they can have everything they need to do the best work that they can.
I know one of the things, when you speak about the idea behind Black Brick is you think of the 3 pillars that underpin Black Brick. Perhaps share with our viewers at home what those 3 pillars are and how they feed into ensuring that certain young people, anybody who's looking to buy or to rent in this place, is able to have that thread that runs across the Black Brick properties.
So there's 3 pillars in a sense. From an investment standpoint, there's location, price, and then facilities. So location, as I explained, we're in urban centres. So Sandton is our first location. We have another one being built across the road now. This one is 208 apartments. The one across the road is 275. So in the area we have a mass of just under 500. And then we just opened in Cape Town with 100 units. We have Mshlanga in Durban planned with 500 units over 2 phases. And we're planning on doing a rollout of about 1,800 over the next few years. So locations for us means that we're in urban centres where you can walk to the economic opportunities that exist in this country. And from a price perspective, we aim to have as many as possible under $1 million, so that it lowers the barrier to entry to get into the property market. And then the facilities, you've walked around the building. We try to cover everything from a lifestyle perspective. We have 2 restaurants, we have a gym, we have this rooftop which is used for social gatherings, we have workspaces, boardrooms, meeting rooms, a cinema room. So we really try to cover both the bases of work and, as you call it, play.
And speaking of the development, or rather the building across the road from where we are, so Boris, as we're speaking off air, was saying that we're talking about the number of episodes that we've already had on the show. I was telling him that we're fast approaching 300 episodes. Tonight is episode 270, and he was like, listen, the building across the room is going to have 275 units, so maybe we must do episode 275 in that building, because it's got a thing for numbers and the play with numbers. So chances are this time next week Monday, because that's going to be episode 275, we'll be coming live again from Black Brick, because they have 275 units, and I think that's also just going to be a great opportunity for viewers at home to get a sense of what is also available in the new development. I mean, Maurice, before I wrap up with you, you've already spoken a little bit about some of your future plans. I certainly want to get a sense for viewers at home what we can expect, particularly for people who are looking to invest, so looking to buy or perhaps rent, but particularly those who are looking to buy, because I know a lot of viewers at home are very bullish in expanding their property portfolio in different ways and are looking at different kinds of properties to add to their portfolio. So what can they expect from Black Brick going forward?
Well, as I said, we're building a number of these.
Yeah.
and so we call it the network. And so the network effect has a number of spin-offs. So firstly, as a user, as a guest or as a resident, you're able to move freely between cities. So your experience here and your experience in Cape Town and Durban and anywhere in between will have a golden string running through it, so that keeps you consistent in your, call it your nomadic digital lifestyle. Okay. From an investor's standpoint, we are able to create an environment for you which allows you to invest with a peace of mind. So we've got a full-on property team on site at every site that walks you through the journey. So you buy with us, and then we manage for you. So we really hold your hand throughout the process, both from the purchasing of the property as well as the management of the property. where we do things like we give you the option to say, do you want to put it into a long stay or a short stay environment? And if you want higher returns because that suits your portfolio, then we put it into the short stay environment. You buy a furniture package, but we curate all of that for you, and we manage the entire process for years to come. So we are not the type of developers that sell you a product and then move on to the next one. We manage the property, we manage the hotel is ours, we manage the property management company that is on site. So everything happens at your doorstep, and so we really do the end-to-end management of it. And then importantly, every buyer receives a club membership. So as I mentioned, we have all these facilities and we've got multiple properties, so each property has these facilities, and you're able to, as a buyer, even if you don't live here, travel between them and receive a 15% discount in your hotel stays. But also when you're in your city and you go, let's say you live in Morningside and you have purchased in Sandton but you don't live there, then you can access those facilities free of charge for life, as long as you own that property. And those facilities are really, I mean, it's behind the doors, you have everything that you need to run a full office.
And I think that's probably a great place to leave it at. I think one of the things that I can certainly attest to, as we were setting up here earlier on, there were already people who were viewing, I think they were taking a prospective buyer on a tour, so they also came to view the rooftop. And I think if anything, it's testimony to how you really do walk the path with the investors or the buyers that come on board. And even though, you know, we were working, there were people still getting a sense of what they can expect in the event where they buy into Black Brick. Maurice, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're certainly going to enjoy our time here, and as promised, we'll very likely do episode 275 across the road, where they have 275 units. I'm sure it's going to be such a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be kickstarting our panel discussion. I'm sure many of you have certainly been waiting for this one. The two guests that we've got need no introduction, but to all our new viewers, I'm going to give you a great intro on the two amazing guests who are going to be taking us through the first-time home buying journey, what to look out for, things that you need to always be on top of, and of course mistakes that we want to avoid that could potentially cost us time and money. But before we go, one of the things I want to find out from you at home as we continue engaging here on social media is, if you've already bought your first property, when did you buy it and how was that experience for you? And for those of you at home who are still looking to buy that first property, what are you looking for in your property? You know, what are some of the deal breakers? You're looking for a bachelor, 1-bed, 2-bed, or what are some of your deal breakers, especially given that so many of us are spending more and more time at home and working from home, and so there are probably certain amenities that you want within the particular complex or estate or building or even freestanding house that you want to buy. So do share with us down here below. We will of course be taking your questions, your comments, marking that register when we come back from the break. We'll be back just after this.
Here I am standing in the heart of Sandton CBD outside of Black Brick. Now Black Brick as a company is doing something really different in the residential market, and I think it is so cool. Behind me is one of their flagship developments, a vertical village that is pioneering the way through workspace and living and how they intermingle together, and it's going to change the way you view it forevermore. Black Brick have not only developed an exceptional product, but also put an exceptional amount of thought into how to enhance how people connect and helping their residents achieve their individual goals within that living environment. If you're looking to advance your career, they have weekly guest talks. From corporate CEOs to multimedia personalities, Black Brick is bringing you those TED Talks live and right to your door. If enhancing your social circle is more your thing, Then they have not one, but 2 cafes, as well as a bar, gym, and yoga studio. They also have weekly games nights for you to meet new people and create lasting relationships. And if just spending some time on your own while enjoying the convenience of living in Sandton is what you're looking for, Black Brick offers 3 styles of apartments. So stick with me and we're going to show you all that this vertical village has to offer, because you really do not want to miss out. Coming in,
Episode 270 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Zydah. If you're just joining us, well, you've missed out on quite a great conversation that I've just had with the founder of Black Brick, and that is Moritz Belinsik. Of course, we're talking about the offering that Black Brick has and some of the expansion plans. So if you want to find out more about that, we have shared their website down here below, so do make sure that you reach out to them if you want to experience a taste of working, playing, and being in any of their properties. Well, we are coming to you live from one of their venues on this special broadcast, the first, we hope, of many more broadcasts of this nature. And of course, this evening we're looking at first-time home buyers, what to expect and how to best prepare for it. And before we kickstart our conversation with our 2 incredible guests, I want to ask you at home, firstly, if you've bought your property, when did you buy that first property, and share how that experience was like. Because I think one of the things with buying that first property is it's a very daunting experience, it's a very overwhelming experience. There's so much that you don't know, and many times you're learning as you go, and sometimes you even lose a bit of money in between. A bit later on, I'll share about my first time home buying journey. I know the regular viewers have probably heard this story before, and some of the lessons that I learned the first time I bought property. And for those of you at home who are looking to buy that first property and are watching this show religiously every day, even going on to www.privateproperty.co.za under the advice section to get a sense of what you can still continue to learn before making that big jump. Perhaps you're staying at home or even renting and want to slowly become a homeowner. I want to hear from you. What are some of the things you're looking in that first property? You know, what are some of the non-negotiables? I know with some people, they were like, I want a ground floor unit. It has to be 3 bedrooms because you want that 3rd bedroom maybe to be a study, especially with so many of us working from home. So do share what some of those non-negotiables are for you for a property that you want to buy. And I think one of the great things that you're certainly going to benefit this evening is we're going to be getting great insights on, firstly, what are some of the things you need to be looking out for on that first time home buying journey, how financial institutions are viewing us as applicants when we go for that home loan, what are some of the things that get a home loan declined. You know, I've heard people saying that their home loan application was declined. Why does that happen, and how can you best prepare yourself so that that doesn't happen? And we'll also sneak in, you know, some of the things that estate agents certainly want you to know about your home buying journey, because I think more often than not, we think the estate agent isn't going to walk the path with you and help you along the way. They want you to succeed, because if you get that sale and are able to buy that property, they of course do also make some money on the side. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to be exploring this evening. So do keep the conversation going on social media. And to welcome our guests, I think two guests who certainly don't need much introduction. We've got Zydah Manuel, who's a product portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at Absa Home Loans. Zydah, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Evening, Zama.
I think it's so great to now meet you. I mean, we were saying with Zydah, I've interviewed her on the show countless times. We'd never met before, so this is the first time that Zydah and I officially met. And of course, we've also got Quagraine, who's a real estate principal at properties.co.za and at properties.com, excuse me, because they go beyond our borders, of course. And it's always so great having you. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I think a really good starting point. I'm going to start with you, Zydah, because you're the finance. You come from Absa Home Loans, financier, and I think that's typically where a lot of our pressure points lies when it comes to our first-time home buying journey. People tend to get intimidated with, working with a financial institution. And you think, oh my God, the bank is not going to approve my application. I think before you even get to the nitty-gritties of what to do right, what to look out for, how can first-time home buyers best prepare for that first-time home buying journey? So they're watching at home. I mean, I've even asked some of them what their non-negotiables are, and they want to be able to have bought a property by the end of the year. What can they be doing now or start doing now to best equip them for that journey along the way?
Thanks, Zama. Thanks. Great question. I think, first of all, one of the exciting things about preparing towards the goal of buying a home is what the steps you have to take. And I think some tips and things to think about is really, you sit down and you look at first things first, understand your finances, draw up your budget, determine what is your income, what is your expenses, and also with that, look at your credit report, understand your credit rating and your credit report. You are eligible to retrieve one annually from one of the credit bureaus for free, and I think that's important to understand. Secondly, then understand the cost associated to home ownership. There's quite a bit of costs involved, such as bond registration and transfer fees, your rates and tax, lights and water, insurance for your new property, levies. If you're buying in a sectional title development, understand the cost of levies. Also understand, in your room in your budget for new expenses like additional increase in insurance that you've got to take up with your property. Also, as you shop towards looking at property, you can complete an estimator, a pre-qualification to determine what you could qualify for, so you can shop with confidence. You can start shopping around. And I think with all that being said, the best part is once you've done all of these as prepping, go on to private property and start searching for the property, because I think you would then have a good idea of your finances, what you could qualify for, and you can also then look at all your costs associated and then align that to your budget and determine exactly, right, this is my great starting point and this is where I'll start my journey.
And I'll actually share some of the mistakes that I made along my own journey, and one of them was actually around not having a good understanding on some of the costs associated with buying, never mind with once you've owned and you're maintaining a property. And I'll share that a little bit later on. I want to bring you in, and I think at this stage where you are watching the show, you know that you're going to be a first-time home buyer this year. Before you even start, looking on privateproperty.co.za for the different properties that you're going to potentially view, what are some of the mistakes that people make at this point, right? Because I know there are mistakes we'll cover later on, but at this point, before you've even contacted a financial institution or you've gotten pre-qualified, what are some of the mistakes that people make at this point that sometimes may make it difficult for them, for example, to get that home loan later in the year, or even it may delay the process to perhaps only getting a property in the new year?
So I shared this, right, from a point of something that has actually happened with my friends and I. So when you come out of school, you get that first job and you're like so excited because that paycheck is like It's brilliant, guys. And
Well,
the first
I need to tell people. So his first job was as a banker. So his paycheck, he would say that about his paycheck. I don't think all of us at home can say our first paycheck was that amazing. So this is a banker speaking, or a former banker. So as you were saying, Ibo.
yeah, so it depends though. But anyway, the paycheck is great, right? And the first thing you then go is, hey, I need that. The status car or something that you're going to get to be able to move around. And for us, that was actually the first thing that we are very grateful that we never got to do, that has really helped us to where we are now. Because when you're coming out from your school and you want to get this first property, you now saying to yourself, okay, let me get the car first so that I can get around. No, don't. Get the property first. That is because if you get the car first and you get it on finance, then already a big chunk of your disposable income is taken away. And also the fact that the car is actually bought over a short-term period, it means that the repayment is actually much higher. So whatever you do, get the property first. The second mistake that we make is you're looking at this paycheck of yours, or you're looking at your salary, and you say to yourself, they say that I should have 30%, right, to pay for the bond. So therefore, I'm going to go all out and buy that 1 million rand house that I've always dreamed of. Please don't do it. Start off first by saying, where do I want to be 5-10 years from now? And where you want to be 5-10 years from now will involve income. So get your investment property first. Don't let anyone fool you. Get your investment property first, because when they're paying for you, you end up then getting the ching-ching that you go back to Zydah and you say to Zydah, I actually don't earn 15,000, 20,000 because there's somebody that gives me an extra 6,000, so I actually earn 21,000, so I can afford more. And I'm sure she would give you the money anytime.
And I think, one of the things that's also important to note is the reality of many people, who start their professional journey working is, and this is that debate that we tend to, obviously have quite a lot. Do you buy a property? Do you buy a car? A car is a necessity. Unfortunately, we live in Joburg, and more often than not, you do need to get around. As much as Uber is there, or other, similar car hailing services, you still need your own vehicle, because some of the job posts will tell you that you need a driver's license and your own vehicle. Yeah. And I think there, what I'd probably add is then you must make that trade-off. So instead of buying perhaps a BMW or whatever expensive car, maybe buy a slightly smaller car, because that is a necessity. I think there's no escaping that. On my own journey, I wanted to buy a property first, and ended up buying a car. And even there, I think I bought a car to put on the Uber platform, so I wasn't even buying it to use it. But I was fortunate in terms of where I was living, where I was working. I've had that kind of flexibility. But the reality is not a lot of people make it. I think the big thing that it was highlighted is assess your lifestyle spend, and where you can, try and keep it at a minimum as much as possible, because we all know how crucial having a vehicle, especially in any of our metropolitan cities, effectively is. So now you've watched the podcast religiously, and you certainly go on www.property.co.za fairly religiously, and you get a sense of what you kind of need to do, and you're approaching Absa. And I'll come back to what an estate agent wants you to have. I think when people then approach financial institutions, Zydah, because I know that Absa will also do pre-qualification, what are some of the things that they need to have ready? Because I think one of the things that we sometimes take for granted, let's say you're working full time, is just the admin of applying for a home loan. I say this to people all the time. It's very admin intensive. I hate filling in paperwork, so I find it to be just one of those really frustrating things. So what are some of the things that the bank is going to ask and require of you at that first stage that you almost need to be very ready to share with the bank and start that conversation of, I want to get pre-qualified, or I'm potentially going to be looking for a property. What are some of those things?
Thanks, Amma. So some of the things that we have available that's on our website that can help you prepare for the journey from an educational perspective. We've got a pre-qualification tool known as the Home Loan Estimator. And you can actually go on there, input your details and some of your financial details as well, income and expenses, to actually see what you could qualify for as a start point. Secondly, as a first-time buyer, you know, there's a lot of parts in the journey from a milestone perspective. So we have a great e-learning link, which is in my homeowner journey, that teaches you all the ins and outs of home ownership, right? And then we also have a great knowledge hub center with great articles that, you know, we answer quite a bit of frequently asked questions relating to the home buying journey, which is available on our website, and it's open market use. I think secondary, as you prepare as well, like I said, managing your finances is very important. Understand your bureau score as well. And upon application to the bank for a home loan, I think you must have a property in mind, a location, a property that you might have found. You complete the paperwork, your income, your expenses. Let's have your ID document ready, some proof of residence, and I think that's submission to your home loan application, and the bank assesses that, and then will share an outcome with you as well. And I think that's all part of the exciting part of the journey. And I think searching for your property is also exciting, but in the back of your mind, knowing, you know, what is your affordability, and shopping with confidence is really great. And then, like I mentioned earlier, you know, and also once you know what you can afford, you also have a great idea of what your bond registration costs could be, and some of your transfer attorney fees. We know that properties below R1 million is exempted from transfer fees, so that helps first-time buyers. And also the government has a great tool, which is the FLISP government subsidy. That is also eligible. You can be eligible for the FLISP government subsidy as a first-time buyer. There is a criteria, but it's also available to support home buyers on their first journey as a first-time buyer.
You know, Zydah, as you're talking about the costs associated with home ownership, especially the transfer costs, I know viewers who watch the show regularly have heard me share this story, because when I started my own sort of home ownership journey, I, you know, was looking at different websites. Unfortunately, at the time, you didn't have a show like this, and you certainly didn't have as many resources that you can tap into that give you a very holistic picture of what you can expect when you're buying a property for the first time, who you're going to be paying what. I mean, I know that you're able to now even get estimates from, you know, various calculators that can help you in terms of how much you're going to pay for your bond registration, how much you're going to pay for your transfer attorneys and the likes. So when I bought, you know, the property, I think the first time I got a home, I bought 2 properties at a go. And at the time, my research had said I'm only going to pay 1 attorney for a property, and only to find, obviously the properties were being bank financed, only to find I needed to budget for 2 attorneys per property. And I mean, you can imagine my shock and surprise when I got the 3rd and the 4th invoice from lawyers, and I thought to myself, who has gotten my data? Am I being scammed? What is happening? And you know, it really took the attorney sitting down with me. I remember talking to her on the phone and explaining that, look, you bought these properties, and remember, you've bought it, you know, on bank finance. This is what a bond registration attorney does. This is what a transferring attorney does, and took me through the steps. And I think that's one of the great tools even about this show, that we look at that home buying journey, look at what your transferring attorneys would do, look at what goes into bond registration. So making sure that you've saved up sufficient funds for both attorneys when you're going to have it bank financed. If you're one of the fortunate ones who are going to be buying it cash, then it's only the transferring attorneys that you need to budget for. And those are some of the mistakes that we want to avoid, right? Because you could have easily not budgeted effectively, and by the time you find out, it's fairly down the line where it's too late to pull out. If I were to pull out at that stage, I'd be liable for so much money. I would have been liable for more than what it would have cost to just pay the attorneys. And we'll deal with some of those mistakes a bit later on in the show. I want to hear from you, of course, at home this evening as we come to you on a special broadcast of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Zamantungwa Kumalo. We're coming to you live from Black Brick, where we're, of course, having a special panel with Zydah Manuel from Absa Home Loans, as well as Quagraine, who's a real estate principal at properties.com. We are taking you through the first-time home buying journey, some of the things that you should look out for, and how to best prepare for that first-time home buying journey. I know a lot of people are looking to enter the first-time home buying market this year. We're looking at historically low interest rates, and more than ever, more people are able to access that home loan facility this time around. So I want to hear from you. When was the first time that you bought your property, and how was that experience like? And if you're potentially going to be buying that first property, then what are some of the non-negotiables that you want your property to have? And Eva, I want to bring you in. I mean, now people, you're looking for a property. What are some of the things that a real estate agent would want you to know about your home buying journey? Because I think oftentimes you're going to be interacting with, obviously your estate agent throughout the process, and you tend to find that just certain things your estate agent wants you to know from the get-go that will make the process smoother for you and probably even quicker, especially for serious buyers. Because I think there's still some people who just want to look, and then there are those who are clear, I need to buy, this is my time frame. So we're now looking at people who are serious, they know they want to buy. What would an estate agent want them to know upfront to help with the home buying journey?
So at properties.com we have this exercise that we conduct, right, called the first time interview. And at this first time interview, the one question we always ask in the prospective buyer is, why are you buying? Understanding your why is so important, because often than not, if I'm buying as an investor, the way I think is different. The way the properties I'm even going to view is going to be very different. As opposed to if I'm thinking as in I'm buying to go live in it. So we always want the client to at least start off by knowing the why. Why are you buying it? Now, after you know the why, it's also very important to actually say, how does the property that I find going to fit into the lifestyle or the why that I'm actually going to be purchasing this for? So you find that's where you make the decision between having a sectional title property or having a freestanding property. I know some of my friends and myself and Zydah actually had this chat. Security is so important. I mean, considering the country that we're in and the metropolis that we are in, certain things are non-negotiable, right? So you want to make sure that you at least also know the location that you want to be in and how it fits into your lifestyle. That's very important. That's something that your estate agent would like to know. Of course, they would like to also know that at the end of the day, when they take you on all these outings, they will earn some back. So they want to know that you can afford whatever property that you're looking for. So therefore, you need to know your numbers. And it's very important. We do this also in the first time interview. Understanding your numbers, doing down the sums, and also actually, I want to use this word, basically stepping it back a little bit. Because we're all very bullish. We all want to, what's that song that we're singing earlier? I want to be I want to be a millionaire so flipping bad, right? We all want to grow that portfolio. We all want to have that lifestyle that we've dreamed of, and we want to have it now. But it's always important to say, I will be able to get it. Nothing can stand in your way. And all those people that follow me, they know that it's the ABC. So you basically aspire, you believe, and you commit. You will get it. But step it down now and say, yes, I can get it. So I will buy a little bit below what I can afford, so that I can be able to have a good leaping frog to step on to move to the next stage. So that's what we want to know.
We are, of course, tuned into the Private Property Podcast with myself, Uzamantumwa Kumalo. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, we will be taking your questions and comments. Also taking questions and comments from the audience here at Black Brick as we come to you live, of course, from one of their venues. This is their first property that they have in Sandton. We're going to be coming to you live from one of their new venues next week, Monday, for episode 275, because that particular property has 275 units that you can look forward to. So do comment down here below. We're going to be getting through to your questions as well. I think one of the things I want to find out from you, if you're a first-time home buyer, what are you looking for in a property going forward, certainly for the rest of the year? And if you've walked that first-time home buying journey, how was the experience like? What were some of the lessons that you have learned? And after the break, we'll be looking at some of the mistakes that you want to watch out for as a first-time home buyer. We'll also look at the difference between buying a freestanding property and buying into a sectional title community. I think we're seeing that a number of people still don't quite understand the dynamics of living in a sectional title community. And I can hear Ebo laughing because we've had him on the show a number of times talking about the sectional title community and just how fundamentally different it is from living in your normal standalone house where you make all the rules and you're in charge of everything. So we're going to go for a quick break and we'll be back just after this. Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Kumalo. It's a special edition of the show as we come to you live from Black Brick. And of course, we are looking at the first time home buying journey, what to look out for and how to best prepare for it. And to help us better understand how we can do that, we've got Zydah Manuel, who's a portfolio manager for first-time home buyers at Absa Home Loans. We've also got Quagraine, who's a real estate principal at properties.com. We are taking your questions and comments this evening. We'll also, of course, have a live studio audience who will also get an opportunity to ask questions when it comes to this one. I want to hear from you at home. If you've walked this journey, how was the journey like? What were some of the highlights, the lowlights of buying that first property? I know how daunting it can be. And if you're in the market for that first property, what are you looking for in a property? And what are some of the non-negotiables that you absolutely need to have? We're going to go to our studio audience. I see we've got a first question. And just please introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Thank you very much, Zama. My name is Natasha Zulu. The question is, are there any transfer costs that will be involved? And if so, in what situation would these be?
And I think I'm actually going to give that to you. I'll give it to Ebo because he would be dealing with this quite a lot. So what are the various transfer costs?
The banker should answer this
No,
question.
the only reason I'm not giving it to the banker is because only really one cost goes to a bank, like bank associated. So I think what transfer costs should viewers at home and even Natasha budget for when they're looking at their first time home buying journey?
So this is it, right? Oftentimes people go, wait, I'm buying a property below the threshold, so why is that other that other law firm still asking me for money? They're asking you for money because they need to pay for the postages, they need to pay for the deeds office and all those things, and they also need to pay for their time. So yes, there would always be the transfer attorney's cost, which you must always budget for. There are simple calculators online that you can actually use based on the price of the property. It will tell you plus or minus how much you should be budgeting for. That is if you buy in cash. If you're buying via bond, there would always be that other attorney that the bank instructs to actually help with the deeds transfer, coming from the bond side, right? So the bank is basically registering another deed with the Reserve Bank in terms of the bond, and they want this attorney to basically assist with that. You need to be able to pay them also for their time. Then, of course, if you've bought a very luxurious property, be prepared to pay the transfer duty that the government is going to levy on you. But most of you will just buy lower. Make money.
And I think, one of the things that we sometimes forget when it comes to, I'll say, holistically transfer fees beyond the attorneys is also your moving costs. I think there's a very holistic view at looking at what you're going to be paying for. So attorneys aside, also factor in moving costs. We're above 30, so you're going to hire professional movers. You're not going to get your friends and put stuff in their car. We're not doing that anymore. It's badala. So make sure that you've also just budgeted effectively. Taking more of your questions and comments at home. We're also going to be taking questions from our studio audience. We've got a question here on YouTube coming from Liesel Windbochel. And this one is for you, Zydah. And Liesel is asking, as a first-time buyer, can you choose over how many years you'd like to pay off a home loan? Because we know a lot of times it's like, 240-month term. So can they choose from the onset how long they want the loan term to be?
Great question, Zama. I think, yes, you can. So different banks have different loan terms. So at Absa, we allow you up to 30 years loan term. And look, I think it's beneficial for you as a home buyer to determine, you know what, my first goal is my first property, as Ivo mentioned earlier. What's the purpose of it? How quickly do I want to pay it off and reinvest into more? So, and I think back to your budget, if you feel a 20-year term is great for you, but actually my goal is to pay it off quicker, that's an excellent goal to have. And another thing that you could also consider is to always try to pay more than your repayment installment. If you can afford, pay more. It's really encouraging, and it's definitely beneficial for yourself from a long-term perspective. Yes.
No, definitely. I think one of the things, and we've even covered it when we've had you on the show and some of the other colleagues at Absa Home Loans, is that when we look at where interest rates were this time last year, or even in January last year to now, one of the things that I've done, and I know many of you at home have also done this, is you've you continue to pay the exact amount that you were being debited, last year, as opposed to the reduced amount. So every time the Reserve Bank has decreased interest rates, you call your bank and say, leave the amount as it is, so that every month you're essentially able to pay that little bit extra. I know we've got another question from the audience. It's the lady here in the front. Again, please introduce yourself and let's hear the question.
Thank you, Zama. My name is Vovo. What I wanted to check it's with Zydah, right? What about the freelancers? What is the credit sort of history do you look at? If you are a freelance worker, and also if you are just starting employment for the young ones, what's the credit history like? Is it 6 months salary, or what is it?
Thank you so much. Great question. I think when it comes to affordability and assessment, which interlinks with your credit bureau history, it's very important. One, understand your bureau record so you can retrieve a free report annually from a credit bureau. Two, ensure that if you have credit obligations, your repayments are monthly and they timeously. Avoid missing repayments. It impacts your credit rating. If you're self-employed and entrepreneur or a consultant in any form, I think ensure that your income is still disposable and lucrative, still to meet whatever credit obligations you have, so that you can manage your credit profile. Because your credit profile is a really key driver to access to lending, any form of lending. And I think managing that is very, very important. So I also think that when banks or lending institutions look at you as an assessment, they look at your income over a certain period of time. They will also look at your credit history, bureau behavior over a period of time. It could be any period over time. So the tip is manage your profile very, very well. Ensure you pay regularly your credit obligations, don't miss payments. And also, if you're taking up credit, ask yourself, is it good credit, bad credit, and do you really need it? It's good to have a credit history, but I don't think if you look at your income and expenses, you always like to have a good disposable income after your expenses, or you've met your credit obligations. So you still have room for savings, and you still have room to plan for other things, financial goals that you may have set for yourself. Thanks.
Sibo, I think you wanted to add something there?
Yeah. So, and I wanted to add this from a point of somebody that has actually never earned a basic salary in his life, okay? So as much as I was a banker, I actually went into the bank on a partnership level, and something that I'll always be grateful for. So for those like you're speaking about that have never had that basic, you never know at the end of the month what's really coming in. This is what you do. You determine that basic salary for yourself from get-go. So when 100,000 comes in, you live the 10,000 rand life. When $1 million comes in, you live a 10,000 rand life, and you keep on living that 10,000 rand life no matter what. Forget about the Joneses. Forget about what. My friend came out of this economics class with me, and he's driving a Range Rover Sport. You will get there. Stick with your 12,000 rand car that you bought, panel beats, and you're driving it, and they're all laughing. You smell the fuel. It's good. Drive it. Live the 10,000 rand life. And every single time that's coming in, what you're basically doing is you're showing the bank how financially responsible you are. You're showing the bank, listen, I get $1 million and I still spend 10K. So if you give me your $1 million to buy that property, because at the end of the day, that property should never be with your money, no matter what. These banks have money. It's your money, by the way. So go take it. Go take it and use it, and then give it back to them after somebody else has paid you. Never ever give them your money.
Yeah, and I think for viewers at home who want to get better insight on what you can do if you're a freelancer, a sole proprietor, an entrepreneur, we've had great episodes just this month alone, 2 different episodes that we've had looking at how you as a sole proprietor, an entrepreneur, a freelancer can certainly better your odds at that home loan, and what you need to do and do well in order for you to be able to get that home loan. Got another question from the audience, and this is somebody who I will say needs no introduction, only because if you watch this show regularly, you would know her all too well. One of the top fan gang members, one of the ringleaders. I'm going to let her introduce herself because I don't want to spoil it just yet. So I'm going to give over the mic to her and for her to be able to ask her question.
Good evening. I'm Kateko Agape. My question is, who is responsible for a levy clearance certificate? One of my friends was recently quoted on that, and as far as I know, the seller is supposed to pay for that.
And this is a great question. So
Very good
this
question.
this is now the person that we get to meet, right? Because Kateko, if you watch the show regularly, is always commenting on every live. We also see her commenting, of course, on all our other posts. And it certainly is great to be able to have her on the show and meet her live, because I think it's one of those few top fan members that I always interact with during the show as we watch it. I'm going to pose that question to Ebo, because this is what he does. This is literally what he does for a living.
Thanks for that question. It's so important. So, to answer your question briefly, it's the seller that's supposed to pay. Because think about it, it's you are clearing the levy. So what are you clearing? You're clearing what you've already built in, right? So the managing agent should be able to prepare for the transferring attorney a statement to say this current seller has paid their levies up to date. When you plan to actually transfer this property, and they would say we are going to complete transfer maybe on the 1st of June. So then they would budget the levies with the expenses and everything up until 1st of June, so that the seller would pay all of that, and then we then issue the levy clearance to say, okay, you can now bring in the new buyer which you would like to have as a new homeowner.
And I think one of the crucial things with that one is the only exception will probably be if you're buying your property on auction. So if it's an insolvent estate or the sheriff's auction, that's probably the only time where, as the purchaser, you're going to be liable for those costs. They essentially communicate them up front from your, rates and taxes. So all those are standing rates and taxes and levies. You would know up front that this is what you also need to budget for. But if you're buying it sort of the conventional way, then the purchaser, certainly the seller is the one who would be covering it. Taking more of your questions and comments at home as we look at the first-time home buying journey, how to best prepare for it, and some of the things that you should be watching out for at home. We've got a question coming through. This one is for you, Zydah. It's coming from Usabelo Ngwanyana, who asks, is a deposit a must? And I actually want you to answer this in almost two-phased. On the one hand, and the reason why I say two-phased is because you'll get people who will say, if you can, don't pay for a deposit, because why put down that money in the property? You want to rather use it for other things. So from that perspective, but also in the event where you don't have a deposit, does the bank look at your application differently, or does it sort of dampen your odds of A, either getting a home loan, or B, being able to negotiate the interest rate?
Thanks, Amma. What a good question. I think first of all, it's always good to have a deposit. It's always good to have savings set aside for a deposit. I think that's beneficial for you as the potential homeowner owning that property. I think if you don't have a deposit, either or, the bank will still assess you. What's important is your income, your affordability, and also your credit behavior, your credit profile. And that will determine the outcome of your application. I always encourage potential homeowners to save up towards a deposit. It's always good to put it down. I think, like I said, it's beneficial for you as a homeowner over the period of time as well. Yeah.
And I know that we're slowly running out of time for this special broadcast. Ebo, I want you to touch on this when we look at the difference between buying a freestanding property and buying a sectional title. What are just two key things we need to bear in mind when we're buying into a sectional title versus when we're buying a freestanding property, especially because increasingly more and more of us are going to be living in sectional title communities. I think South Africa is currently ranked number 4 in terms of the fourth largest sectional title community in the world, and we're probably very well might actually reach number 1, especially when you look at the bullish nature of how developers are currently building those kinds of communities. So what's the difference, and what should we watch out for when we buy into a sectional title community?
So the first part is, there's this perception that when you buy in a sectional scheme, you have all these other expenses that add on. Think about it logically. Actually, in a sectional scheme, you get the opportunity to share your costs with other people. You get the opportunity to build an asset with other people. So when you're starting out, think about it and say, which sectional scheme am I going into? And do I really have that opportunity to build this asset with other people? And if I'm going to build this asset with other people, the people in that community, are they the ones I can build with? That's very important. because on a freestanding home, basically it's your home, you've bought it, right? You own the bricks, you own the security, you own the the gardening service, you own the pool boys' money, you own every single expense that comes. And when you sokola in, there's nobody that's coming to your aid. When you're in a body corporate and you feel like things are tight, you go to the AGMs and you make sure you speak the loudest. Joking. You convince everybody and you say, guys, do we really need to have purple bushes where we can really do with the green? Can we cut down on certain things so that our budgets can afford it? And that's actually the key things that one should look at, and the difference between the owning a free title to the sectional scheme.
And as we begin to wrap up, Zydah, I think the last question that I have for you, any final tips for viewers at home who are going to be walking that first-time home buying journey this year and want to make sure that they get a successful application? Because I know a lot of people may want to move from renting to owning, or move out of home and own their own property. So what last tip can you give them at home to help them on their journey?
Thanks, Amma. I think first of all, it's exciting, but it's overwhelming. But Absa has great digital tools to help you on your journey. They're all accessible on our website. They're for open market use, and they can really help you make the decision around purchasing your home. We have a pre-qualification tool. We've got an e-learning home ownership educational tool that can answer all your pressing questions about the home buying journey. We also have a great knowledge hub center with different articles that you can read more about buying a home, tips, your credit bureau score, your profile, attorney, bond transfer fees, the difference between a building loan and a home loan. So we've got great tools. We also have great products for first-time buyers. We also have a young professional product with great discounts. We've got a good home insurance solutions that can help you once you've purchased your property. We can help with the home insurance solutions. And we've also got a great, another great product for income earners below 25,400. We'll give you 50% attorney bond discount and bond registration fees. We also give you access to our financial consultants that can help you with the needs analysis to plan your financial planning, consulting around your journey to home ownership. So we've got great solutions for you. And I think important, manage your credit profile, understand your income and expenses from an affordability perspective, and save towards the home goal. Save towards planning to buy the house.
And Ero, your final tip for viewers at home who will be walking that first-time home buying journey?
One, make sure that whatever it is that you're buying into is going to be beneficial for you in the long term. Always think about property investment for the long term. Two, make sure that it balances with your lifestyle, okay? And it also complements your wealth creation journey. Very, very important. So whatever you're doing, it should bring you money so that you can be able to move on to another step. Especially when you're buying into a sectional scheme, you want to make sure that you're buying into a scheme that is well managed, that has good financials, and where the people that are living there are actually very interested in the complex and in terms of being able to bring the asset value up, as opposed to where everybody's dumping their properties. Well, it depends. If they're dumping it, maybe go buy as many as possible, so that you can be the one that raises it up. But yeah, it's a great time to buy property, and you should always buy.
And that's certainly a great note to leave it on this evening. It has, of course, been a special broadcast of episode 270 of the Private Property Podcast with myself, Uzamantungwa Kumalo. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will definitely be having more of these and give you at home an opportunity to be able to join us, the COVID restrictions allowing. We're certainly going to be making these events bigger and better, as of course we continue to make the property circle bigger as much as possible. I know that we've eaten into Chad's time, so you can look forward to that Home Shoppers Show shortly. And of course, continue engaging us on our social media platforms, and we're going to continue the conversation. It has been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much. And that's where we're going to leave it. I'll be back on your screens tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. as usual. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.